Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you. In this video we're going to discuss the question, did the witch of Endor actually conjure up the spirit of Saul? So let's begin this video. That's the thumbnail from a video game, I believe. And to answer the question, we can find the answer in 1 Chronicles chapter 10, verse 13. It's really straightforward. So Shaul died, or Saul died, for his transgressions wherein he transgressed against Elohim, against the word of Adonai, or Yah, for as much as he kept it not, because, now get this, Saul inquired of a wizard, or the lady, the witch of Endor, so he calls her a wizard, to seek counsel. And what happened? Samuel, or Shmuel, the prophet, answered him. So straightforward, yes, it was Samuel. And he sought not Adonai, so he killed him and turned the kingdom to David, the son of Jesse. Okay. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this topic. So this might be a little disturbing or controversial, but I think it's important to do the research in terms of what had occurred and look at the order of events that took place in terms of the actual act of necromancy. So before we do that, actually let's look at what had occurred. So Saul went to this woman who has a divining spirit, or as Chronicles describes, a wizard, really a witch, but in any case he disguised himself, and she was able to recognize him. It says, "Whom shall I bring up to you?" And he said, "Bring up to me Samuel." The woman saw Samuel. Notice right away. "Bring up to me Samuel." And right away, immediately, the woman saw Samuel and cried out with a loud voice. So she was surprised. This is not an ordinary occurrence in terms of how things are done when it comes to necromancy. The woman said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul." And then the king is still continuing on. "Don't be afraid. Tell me whom you have seen." The woman said to him, "I saw Elohim ascending out of the earth." So she could see that, and he said to her, "What did you perceive?" And so on, and describes an upright man clothed with a mantle. And Saul knew this was Samuel. He stooped with his face to the earth and did obeisance to him. So could Saul see him? I would guess no. Only she could see him. But he bowed. And then Samuel said, "Why have you troubled me?" Notice, it's not the lady, it's not the witch speaking, it's Samuel. So he could hear Samuel. "Why have you troubled me that I should come up?" Saul said, so he's talking, having a conversation with Samuel. "I am greatly distressed. The Philistines war against me. Elohim has departed from me," and so on and so forth. And then Samuel describes what they had spoken about previously and describing what has happened. So these are details that the witch would not know. And then pronouncing what would happen to him, which did pretty much occur. He died. I mean, technically he didn't die by the hands of the Philistines, kind of indirectly, but he died nonetheless. He fell, and so did his son. That's technicalities aside, that's what happened. Okay, so that's the narrative. Let's continue and do our study in terms of necromancy. So what is involved with necromancy? So there's a lot of content, a lot of articles and videos about this account and whether it was Samuel or not. We already established it is Samuel based on scriptures. It's revealed. But the next question is, what was involved in necromancy. So let's read it. It is the practice of magic involving communication with the dead by summoning spirits as apparitions or visions for the purpose of divination, imparting the means to foretell future events and discover hidden knowledge. So what was Saul doing? He wanted to know. He was inquiring of Adonai, but he wasn't answering him, so he turned to someone with a divining spirit inside her. Okay. Antiquity. Okay. Let's see. Here it is. It says, the foremost practitioners of divination among the people of Persia. So it was practiced in ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, Greece, Rome, and China, and apparently also in ancient Israel. And then regarding the people of Persia, it is believed to have been widespread among the peoples of Chaldea. The Babylonian necromancers were called Manzazu or Sha'etemu. The spirits they raised were called Etemu. The oldest literary account. Okay, kind of. All right, I'm trying to get into the procedure here. Rituals could be quite elaborate, involving magic circles, wands, talismans, and incantations. The necromancer might also surround himself with morbid aspects of death, which included often wearing the deceased's clothing, consuming foods that symbolized lifelessness and decay, such as unleavened black bread, notice unleavened, unfermented grape juice. Some necromancers even went so far as to take part in the mutilation and consumption of corpses. So why do I bring this up? So I could learn how to do this? No. The purpose of learning this is because she didn't do any of these. Notice none of these took place. He simply said, I want to speak to Samuel. And then notice what else is involved normally. Time. These ceremonies could carry on for hours, days, or even weeks. It takes time. The fact that it happened instantly shows that it wasn't actually... She didn't even start the procedure. It was a miracle. It seemed that Adonai intervened. Frequently, they were performed in places of interment or other melancholy venues. The time frame for conjuring up of recently dead was limited to 12 months following the death of the physical body. Okay. All right, so I think that's it for this tab. Okay, I'll go to the next one. Actually, I have something on my phone. Let me just look at that before moving on. So did she really conjure up Saul, or did Adonai or Yah intervene? She did. Actually, she didn't. I mean, it was really Samuel, but it seems that Adonai intervened, perhaps. It's not encouraging believers to seek witches. It's just that in this instance, there was intervention. Because even Adonai has power over evil spirits, over all spirits. So this is from gotquestions.org or .com. The Witch of Endor, I'm going to read this afterwards. The Witch of Endor was likely expecting to hear from her from her familiar spirit, which is a demon, during the seance. That's what it's called in necromancy. And that explains her startled reaction to seeing Samuel. It seems that in this case, Elohim allowed Samuel to return in order to give King Saul the news of his coming defeat and death. So that was the expectation, to hear from her familiar spirit that's inside of her. And again, it takes time. There's certain procedures and rituals involved. She wasn't able to do any of those. And very little time elapsed. There was no detail given as to, took hours or days or weeks. No, it happened the same day. So I'm going to read 2 pages from this this book here, Between the Rivers on Necromancy. So this is in regards to Babylonian necromancers. So I wanted to look at ancient sources or ancient practices that would be relatively close to ancient Israel on the timeline, how those practices took place, how they happened, what is involved. So this is a deep dive. So necromancers or necromances was known as Muzalu, Muzalitu, Etemi, or Sa Etemi, where the terms used for the dead were either Utuku or Etemu, both meaning ghost, although Ilu, God, spirit, was sometimes used as well. Otherwise, outside of a few mentions in letters from as far back as the old Akkadian period, the only really tangible evidence for the practice consists of one late and one Neo-Babylonian texts. Both texts are clearly products of late reflection and development of the tradition. One of them reflects the terminology and concepts of both Summa Alu and the Namborbi series, indicating that Namborbis were not only capable of combating unfortunate omens, but perhaps also of deriving information from elsewhere themselves. One of the two texts requires the summoning of the Etemu, again that's the ghosts, into a handy skull provided for the purpose. So we can see these props are used. The summoner is instructed after completing the ritual to speak to the skull and it will answer. About the only other relevant information hearing or bearing on this practice is to be found in the Old Testament, in the Talmud. That's where we read from, in 1 Samuel 28, the Old Testament. For his part, Tropper attempts to examine the phenomenon of necromancy in the light of the ancient Near Eastern cults of ancestor worship, a praiseworthy attempt to change the frame of reference of necromancy studies from the phenomenology of obscure magical practices to the wider field of a neglected aspect of ancient Near Eastern religious life. Unfortunately, there is little he can do to overcome the dearth of sources already indicated by Finkel. So, for example, the few references to the Muzalitu Tropper is able to unearth in the Sumero-Akkadian lexical series awaken no confidence in the notion that necromancy was a widespread practice. So this author seems to believe it was not widespread. No Assyriologist would be prepared to accept lexical evidence without correlative evidence in the vast mass of Akkadian correspondence. Legal documents and archival materials available to us, and it is precisely such evidence that we lack. So I'm going to go to the next page. So this is 182. Okay, the Muzalitu woman immediately after the sorceress. Okay, I'm just going to scan this a little bit. Okay, I think that's it for this page. So the last tab we're going to look at is from Niboria.de. I believe it's a German website anyway, or Netherlands, Dutch. The magic of Babylon. So magic was an integral part of everyday life in Babylon, ancient Babylon. Obviously, in the whole Mesopotamian region in ancient times, this essay covers various types of magic which were performed then. So magic pervaded daily life to a degree that even mundane people will have dabbled in it. So regular citizens, curses can be uttered, wording, gestures made, etc. This should be considered an application of true faith, may be connected to the expenditure of willpower. Okay, I'm going to fast forward over that. Just go to the section that I highlighted. Here it is. Necromancy. Asking the spirits of the dead, mainly the most recently deceased relative, for counsel, and that's what Saul was doing. He was looking to ask Adonai for counsel, but he said, okay, well, if I can't get Adonai to speak to me, I'm going to get Samuel. to speak to me. So he was seeking, again, a witch, a wizard, lady with a divining spirit to summon him, okay, for counsel. That's the purpose. So necromancy was also common in Babylon. These spirits were called etemu. The necromancers themselves were called manzazu or Shah etemu. Kind of reminds me of shamans. Anyway, the dead are considered to be closer to the gods and thus know things and can utter warnings about things to come. I'm not going to name the god, but the patron god of that name. Oh, okay. Baru, I think, is the people. Of the Baru is that the sun god. He is usually invoked before a divination takes place. Another tradition uses all the stars at patrons, or as patrons, I think is what they meant. The Baru has to pray for or to the stars a full night before finally undergoing the actual divination ritual in the morning. So notice it takes a full night. That did not occur here. Divinations for answers to specific questions were done in a yes or no fashion. That didn't happen either. Samuel was responding in full sentences, and Saul could hear him. This was also a means used by people who did not have the resources to call upon a Baru's services. For example, a prayer was spoken to a star or a god asking for a specific dream vision. The sign would be specified in the prayer. For example, if I receive something in my dream, I will succeed. If I give something, I will fail. So the point is, they also have to summon a spirit, or as it says here, they would summon this Elohim, or really a demon. And that didn't happen either. It was Adonai who intervened. Adonai intervened and caused this to happen. So I hope this brings light to the details, the facts regarding necromancy. I haven't seen any videos, especially those of a religious nature, going deep into this. Maybe they're afraid to. Maybe they just don't want to do the homework. So we're doing the homework right now in this video. That's what we did. And as I saw, as I hope you saw, there are certain procedures that have to be done. Again, involving skulls, involving dead animals, sometimes blood, and conjuring up a demon or a god. And then a lot of time is also necessary for this necromancy ritual. And none of those happened in 1 Samuel 28. And as well, Samuel, it was stated explicitly in 1 Chronicles that it was Samuel that spoke to Saul. Again, this is by no means a video to promote necromancy and say, oh, we should be doing this. This is a warning that we should steer clear of it because the Torah prohibits it. But it shows that Adonai, that Yah, the God of Israel, has supreme power over all spirits, over all forces. And he just showed that. He displayed that in that account. So thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. Certainly was for me to really kind of prove things to a deeper level. So I bid you all Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you, Maranatha. And it's also the new moon. It's a new month, so Rosh Chodesh Tov. And if I think Shabbat is just ended, so Shavua Tov. Thank you. Peace be unto you.